Tax breaks and fewer regulations do no good for small businesses with no customers. What kind of legislation will you support to allow Americans more access to disposable income so that they can support the marketplace?
That's a good one. Tax breaks and less regulation is what got us into this mess right now. The Bush-era tax cuts that he gave without making up for that money somewhere else really cost us, okay? Deregulation of our financial markets, which allows big-time bankers, okay, to do some things that they should not have done, almost cost this entire nation, okay? So, what we have to do is we have to make sure, okay, that businesses have well-rounded things, okay? It's not just tax breaks, like I already said, okay? You have to help businesses with their employees, you know, money, health care. You have to help them there as well. You have to help our businesses in terms of technology, because technology costs, okay? They do need tax breaks. Our businesses, our small businesses do need tax breaks. But we have to make sure that as a federal government and as a state government, that when we give tax breaks, okay, that we have room in order to make up for that lost revenue, okay? So you have to do those three things. You have to approach those businesses through those three methods so that we can help them to create jobs and income. Now, it's not just businesses, though. Okay, if I have a great business and I sell windows, right? But there's no demand for my windows. There's no construction going on, okay? And then the government comes along and gives me a huge tax bill, right? Tax break. I still have a problem because there's no demand for my windows. There's nobody buying my windows, okay? So tax cuts cannot solve supply and demand, okay? Now, another thing is that a business can create a job, but unless you have money in your pocket to buy that product or service, then it does me as a business owner no good. That's why we need to put money in whose hands? Yours. You're the customer, right? You're the customer. Businesses can't survive without you. They can't do it. They can create a job without you, but you are what is called the job sustainer. You keep the job going. Whenever you buy the product or the service, you keep that business in business, okay? So you're the real job creator. You are. So that's why we need programs in order to keep money in your hands, which means that we have to improve our economy for everyone. For everyone. That's why the focus can't just be on big money businesses. It has to be on you. It has to be on us, the everyday American. Okay?
What is your position on the fair tax bill, H.R. 25?
The fair tax bill, I have had a whole lot of talk about that one. The fair tax bill is basically something that says we need to change the way we do taxes. Okay, like right now we have the IRS, right? And then we have our state tax system set up. The fair tax bill basically says that we need to do away with the IRS and our local tax structure. And then we need to just pay taxes based on sales. In other words, whatever we buy, that's where we pay the taxes. Okay, now, I happen to think that it has some good and some bad about it. My biggest thoughts are this. The fair tax basically says, let's just get rid of our IRS, the whole department. Do you know how many people work for the IRS? That's a lot of people you're talking about just basically getting rid of. What are you going to do with those folks? I mean, you know, you talk about, you know, making our whole economy go under. You know, so there is no answer for that. Anytime we want to make a change as far as taxing, you have to have a logical step in order to go through. And so the fair tax does not have an answer for that. They just simply say, let's just get rid of the IRS, get rid of our current tax structure, and let's start paying tax based on sales. Well, remember, we pay taxes for services. That's one of the reasons why we pay taxes. We pay taxes because the government does a service for us, whether it's state, local, or federal government. So you have to have some type of a system to manage these services. And the fair tax plan, to me, does not have an answer for that. So, thank you. So I do not support the fair tax code as of right now, unless we can come up with some answers for these problems I just talked about.
Alabama receives $3 in federal tax money for every $1 we pay in. Romney and Congressman Brooks, who are on the same team, say government doesn't create jobs. What would happen to North Alabama if they implemented the no government job creation?
Anybody who lives in Huntsville, or anywhere close to Huntsville, even Athens, knows that, yeah, governments can create jobs, long-term jobs. It's because of Redstone that some companies here in Athens are here. Okay, so yes, government can create jobs, and we have proof of it right here. And not only government jobs, there are private sector industries that are here because of the government. Hotels, you know, and so forth. So our government jobs here have actually spawned private jobs. And it's so terrible to have a congressman represent us who is basically anti-government and who's basically preaching, cut the government, cut the government, cut the government. Well, while he's preaching cutting the government, who's he cutting? He's cutting us. He's cutting us. And proof is sequestration. He's cutting us. And that's not a good thing, folks. When you go back to the Bud Kramer era, right? Bud Kramer was all about getting every single dollar back that he possibly could. And he understood that North Alabama is heavily government funded. And the last thing that he wanted to do was to get connected up with the wrong crowd who were just preaching, cut the government, cut the government, cut the government. We need a small government, small government, small government. We can't do that, folks. We live in a government-funded district, highly government-funded district. And we cannot have a congressman who is anti-government and who is preaching, cut the government, cut the government. That's why we need to elect myself. To put somebody back in Washington who's government friendly.